This is Rick Sanchez pointing a death laser at his own head. He built it himself, aimed it, and pulled the trigger. The only reason he's still alive? He passed out drunk before it could fire. That was just one time Rick should have died. Today, we're counting every single moment across 8 seasons where this genius nearly ended his own life, or where the universe tried to do it for him. By the end, you'll see why Rick's real curse isn't his enemies or his recklessness. It's that he's too smart to stay dead.
Needs it. I'll be in the garage.
Rick only once tried to end his life by his own will. It was a deliberate suicide attempt. Let's start with the worst one. Season 2, Auto Erotic Assimilation. Rick just got dumped by Unity, a literal hive mind entity that controls entire planets. And for a guy who claims nothing matters, this breakup confirmed his deepest fear, that his genius makes him incapable of real connection. So he went home, euthanized a mutant alien he'd just brought back to life, basically killing a metaphor for his own existence. Then, completely wasted, he assembled a complex death laser and aimed it at his temple. The scene is silent. No dramatic music, no cry for help. Just Rick, alone in his garage, 1 second away from ending it. But he passes out before pulling the trigger. The alcoholism that fuels his suffering accidentally saved his life. He survives by accident, trapped in the same pain he tried to escape. This is the only time Rick explicitly tried to kill himself. But here's the thing. That suicide helmet on his workbench, it never goes away. It's always there. A visual reminder that the thought never leaves him either. Think about that for a second. Rick Sanchez, the man who can build anything, travel anywhere, become anyone, keeps a device specifically designed to end his life within arm's reach. Not hidden away, not locked up, just sitting there next to his tools and experiments, like it's another option on the menu. The Unity episode wasn't the beginning of his suicidal ideation. It was the moment it transitioned from chronic thought to decisive action. He's been carrying this weight for years, maybe decades. Every adventure, every joke, every I don't care attitude. It's all covering up the fact that he built himself an exit strategy and never threw it away. His catchphrase, "Wooba lubba dub dub," literally translates to, "I am in great pain. Please help me." The show hit a suicide note in a joke, and most viewers didn't even notice. And if you didn't know that until right now, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.
Rick Sanchez of Earth Dimension C-137. You are under arrest for crimes against alternate Ricks by the authority of the Trans-Dimensional Council of Rick.
But Rick's own mind isn't the only thing trying to kill him. When you're the smartest man in the multiverse, you make enemies everywhere. Season 1, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind. Rick gets framed for murdering 27 other Ricks. He's captured, interrogated, and nearly executed by the Council of Ricks. The twist? It was evil Rick all along, controlled by his own Morty. But for a moment there, Rick was genuinely about to be deleted from existence by his own alternate selves. Season 2 opens with A Wrinkle in Time. Rick, Morty, and Summer are caught in a temporal fracture. Time itself is splitting apart. There's no logical solution, no way to calculate which action saves them, so Rick does something we rarely see.
Where's your collar? I'll fix it. I dropped it!
He accepts death. He's ready to let himself disintegrate into nothingness because even his genius can't solve it. He survives by luck, not by choice. Then there's the simulation trap in M. Night Shyamalan Aliens. Aliens capture Rick and trap him in a fake reality to steal his concentrated dark matter formula. Layer after layer of simulations within simulations. If Rick hadn't figured it out, he'd have been stuck in a mental prison forever. That's not death, it's worse. Season 2, The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Rick gets trapped inside his own car battery with Zeep Zanflorp for months. They're literally stuck in a microverse, sabotaging each other, fighting for survival. One miscalculation and Rick would have been permanently stranded in a universe smaller than an AAA battery. But the worst torture came in Season 3. The Rick Shank Rickdemption. Rick surrendered himself to the Galactic Federation at the end of Season 2 in The Wedding Squanchers, what some call functional suicide. He gave up his freedom to save his family. Some see it as martyrdom, others see it as a death wish with plausible deniability. And what did the Federation do? They strapped him to a machine, drilled into his brain, and tortured him for the portal gun formula. Rick was wounded, bleeding, barely escaping with his life. Here's the pattern. Rick's enemies don't just want to kill him, they want to break him first. Extract his secrets. Prove he's not as smart as he thinks. Every trap, every torture session, every near execution is designed to strip away the one thing Rick uses to define himself, his intelligence. And the worst part? They almost succeed. Every single time. Rick survives, but each escape leaves him more damaged, more paranoid, more convinced that the universe is actively trying to destroy him, which, to be fair, it kind of is. He survived all of it, but surviving isn't the same as winning.
Flip the pickle, Morty. You're not gonna regret it. The payoff is huge. I turned myself into a pickle, Morty! Boom! Big reveal. I'm a pickle. What do you think about that? I turned myself into a pickle!
Sometimes Rick doesn't wait for enemies to try killing him, he does it himself, disguising his death wish as science. Pickle Rick. Season 3. Rick turns himself into a pickle to avoid family therapy. Sounds stupid, right? But here's what the episode doesn't say out loud. If Morty hadn't brought that syringe back, Rick would have died of dehydration in the sun. He called it the mega genius equivalent of dying on the toilet. He knew the risk. He did it anyway. Then there's Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die Rick Pete. Season 4. Rick gets obsessed with death crystals that show you how you'll die. His plan? Get crushed by a monster, die a glorious death, and have Morty revive him immediately so he can go to Valhalla. He literally engineered his own death just to game the afterlife. The plan fails when Morty gets distracted. Rick nearly stays dead. Never Ricking Morty. Rick and Morty get trapped in a narrative loop controlled by the story lord. They're stuck in an anthology of stories, each one more dangerous than the last. Rick faces what he calls the sweet release of death multiple times. The phrase isn't a joke. It's what he's been waiting for. The Vat of Acid episode.
I pre-scouted this location and placed a vat of fake acid amongst the real ones. It's got air hoses and a compartment of bones at the bottom. If things go wrong, which they won't, we jump into the vat of acid and I'll release the bones. They'll float up. What is this face you're making? Aren't you an inventor? Yeah, what part of a fake acid?
Rick proves to Morty that the acid in his escape vat is real. Not fake. Real acid that would have dissolved him instantly. He was one wrong move away from melting into nothing, and he did it just to win an argument. Season 6, Solarix. Rick tries to reset his portal index and accidentally sends everyone back to their original dimensions. In his home reality, an AI version of his dead wife Diane activates a kill switch designed to erase everyone, including Rick. He's seconds away from being deleted by a ghost of his own trauma. But Rick has a backup plan for death, right? Operation Phoenix. His consciousness transfers to a clone if he dies. Immortality. Except here's the problem. That technology doesn't heal his trauma, it just forces him to live with it forever. He can't die, so he's trapped in an endless cycle of unresolved pain. Every reckless experiment, every "I'll prove you wrong" moment with Morty, every time he puts himself in mortal danger for no logical reason, it's not confidence. It's testing the limits. Seeing if maybe, just this once, the safety net fails. Maybe the clone doesn't activate. Maybe Operation Phoenix glitches. Maybe he finally gets what he's been waiting for. The genius who solved death can't solve the reason he wanted to die in the first place, so he keeps playing Russian roulette with the universe, hoping one day the chamber isn't empty. Immortality isn't his superpower, it's his prison.
With the power of 1,000 crows. Good luck.
Even in the most recent seasons, Rick can't escape death. It follows him everywhere. Season 5 finale, Rickmurai Jack. Evil Morty destroys the entire Citadel of Ricks and shatters the central finite curve, the barrier that kept Rick the smartest man in every universe. Thousands of Ricks die instantly. Rick C-137 barely escapes, floating in space debris, staring at what he calls the sweet release of death, before Space Beth saves him at the last second. Then Season 6 happens and Rick Prime shows up. The Rick who killed his wife. The Rick he's been hunting for decades. They fight on Prime's home base and Rick C-137 loses badly. Rick Prime beats him, mocks him, and is about to erase his entire family, erasing them from every universe. Rick would have died watching everyone he loves get deleted. Without Evil Morty's intervention, that would have been the end. Season 7, Fear No Mort. The story lord traps Rick and Morty in a narrative loop, and once again Rick faces the sweet release of death. The phrase keeps coming up, it's not just a joke anymore. It's what he's quietly waiting for. And even in Season 8, Rick can't catch a break. The season opens with Rick trapping Morty and Summer in a Matrix-style simulation for 17 years. Why? They didn't return his phone charger. 17 years of their lives stolen because Rick's pettiness has reached psychotic levels. While he controlled the simulation, he was also trapped in his own cruelty, a prison of his own design. Episode 9, Pre-Cog Restaurant. Morty's son starts a rebellion in Garbtopia, and Rick gets dragged into a war zone trying to fix it. Life-threatening combat. Again. Episode 10, Hot Rick. Rick insults the wrong alien family and gets into a physical fight with Bug-Ann's ex-boyfriend. Then Beth's memories rebel and drive her insane. She literally breaks Space Beth's neck. Rick has to teleport home and revive her, then save regular Beth from driving off a cliff. And let's not forget, Rick's chronic acid reflux and constant burping? That's not just a character quirk. His body is destroying itself from the inside. Ulcers so severe that some wonder if they're on the verge of ending his life before any enemy gets the chance. Notice the pattern? The threats aren't getting weaker. They're getting more personal. Evil Morty destroys the barrier that made Rick special. Rick Prime attacks his family directly. The story lord traps him in narratives where death is the only escape. Even his own body is rebelling against him. Rick's been running for so long that he forgot what he's running from. Death isn't chasing him anymore. He's standing still and it's circling closer with every season. The question isn't if Rick will die. It's whether he'll choose it before the universe decides for him. Even at the end of Season 8, the universe is still trying to kill him, or his family, which for Rick might be worse than dying himself. So let's add it up. 1 explicit suicide attempt. Failed because he was too drunk to finish it. Dozens of enemy attacks. The Galactic Federation, Evil Rick, the Council of Ricks, Alien Simulations, Rick Prime, Evil Morty's Citadel collapse. Each one should have been the end. Self-destructive experiments that blur the line between science and suicide. Pickle Rick, the vat of acid, death crystals, AI Diane's kill switch, near-death scenarios across 8 seasons that should have killed him, but didn't. The total? Rick Sanchez has faced death or actively tried to die at least 30 documented times across the series. And that's just counting the major incidents. If you include every reckless adventure, every suicidal decision disguised as science, the number could easily be double that. But here's the thing that makes Rick's story different from every other "how many times did this character almost die" video. Rick doesn't want to survive. Bart Simpson's detention was punishment. Rick's survival is torture. He's built immortality technology. He can clone himself, transfer his consciousness, and cheat death indefinitely. But that same genius that lets him escape death is the exact thing that makes him want it in the first place. The suicide helmet never leaves his workbench. Wooba Lubba Dub Dub is still a cry for help hidden in a joke. And no matter how many times he faces death, whether from enemies, experiments, or his own hand, he always wakes up the next day, still alive, still in pain, still too smart to stay dead. That's Rick's real curse. Not that he could die 30 times, but that he survived all of them. So here's my question for you. Is Rick's immortality his greatest achievement or his cruelest punishment? Drop your answer below, because if you've made it this far, you're thinking about it too. This is the Mortyfiction.
Wubba lubba dub dub.